Hey everybody, I'm here with Per Schneider. For those of you who don't know who he is the co-founder and chief content officer over at IGN, and he's also known as Reaction Guy Number 4. Hey Per, how's it going? Thanks for coming to
Hey,
the show.
how are you doing? Thank you for reminding me of the millions of strange little comics that exist on the internet.
Well, okay, I know the story because I've heard you talk about it on Nintendo Voice Chat, but I'm sure a lot of people who are in my audience have not heard this before. Can you tell us about the Reaction Guy meme and exactly what was happening, or is that too long ago to remember?
No, it's something that's been following me for more than a decade. Obviously, it goes back to E3 actually, where we we were attending the Nintendo press conference with the whole IGN team, like everybody from the Nintendo side of the house, and we took a picture. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I think we were actually just waiting for the show to start, and one of our coworkers took a picture of us, and we looked really bored in it.
Hmm.
And then we used that picture as a reaction to Nintendo's unveiling of Pac-Man Versus, if you remember that,
I do.
where you could play Pac-Man and you had to plug in your GBA, and it was like the most complicated setup. You needed like all four cables and all of that to make it work. And we kind of used that as a reaction. It probably wasn't a genuine reaction to that moment. And on our message boards, people kept on using that image then as a sign of disappointment. And then a year later, right before Nintendo was about to reveal Twilight Princess as a kind of like, if you go back to that time, there was this anti-Wind Waker sentiment still lingering. Even though people came around and realized it was a good game, it was like, it wasn't the mature Zelda game people wanted. And so when Twilight Princess was about to be announced, we saw the trailer before the show. We got a heads up on it. We got to see it. We got really excited. They brought back the Conan score from the Ocarina of Time trailer and all of that.
Hmm.
We were super excited. So we took a fake picture of us being excited. It's like I'm screaming and have my fists up. And it was Craig Harris and Matt Casamassina and Chad Chambers, our intern at the time, in that same picture. So we recreated that pose, just excited. We put that out there as a teaser on our boards, and it just went nuts because people kind of felt that something cool was coming. And then I can't tell you how it happened. It somehow found its way into all these kind of meme forums and somehow traveled to Japan and became this thing that people always use to signify here's something terrible and then here's something great, kind of like this redemption meme. And then it was featured in, I mean, like it was a cover of a magazine for Attack on Titan. It's an icon. It's like a trophy icon in a video game. It's been in anime and manga and everything. And I actually I went to Japan and saw it on a T-shirt in Harajuku as well. And so it's just out there. It's nothing we own or get royalties for. It's just something where something silly took off and just took on a life of its own.
You bought the T-shirt, right?
I don't have the T-shirt, so I saw a photo of the T-shirt, but a friend from Japan sent me stickers with it. So I got the official, unofficial stickers from Harajuku.
All right. Well, that is the only thing that I wanted to talk to you about
All right,
today.
that's a
So
good
I
one.
have a great one. No, okay. So man, I picked the great day to have you on this podcast because Super Nintendo controllers. I'm sure that you've heard all about this. This leak from the patent office or the FCC office with these supposedly Bluetooth Super Nintendo controllers that are possibly on the way for the Nintendo Switch. It was originally found by Resetera member Link83. I like his name,
What's
and
up? Three?
they've got model HAC042 for the model number of the Super Nintendo controller, which totally lines up with HAC015, which is the normal Joy-Cons, and then the NAS Joy-Cons are HAC033. A pair. Do you think that we've got a Super Nintendo announcement coming on our way very, very soon?
Look, let's be real, right? Nintendo eventually was going to run out of NES games, and some of Nintendo's greatest games came out during the Super NES era, right? Like as formative as the NES and the 8-bit days were for the company, you know, we're talking about the console that gave us A Link to the Past, Super Metroid, you know, Mario World, all these amazing hits, Mario Kart, Mario, the original Mario Kart, all these great titles that, of course, they're going to re-release them again. And what better, you know, console to use as a reward for subscribers, because the game files are small, so it's not like you have to download these giant files. They're not as complicated to emulate as later software. The Super NES, as we all know, is certified the best console of all time by me.
I agree.
And then the patent, like sometimes you get patent applications, you get like renewals, and it doesn't mean that the product is actually coming. It just means they want to protect what they have on store shelves. Sometimes it's exploratory stuff, so nobody else can do the same thing. This is so obviously a real thing. You know, you mentioned the HAC number on it. Yeah, this is, I mean, this is as close to a confirmation that it's a thing that you can get. Now, the question is, what is it? Is it part of Nintendo's online plan where, you know, you can order another set of these or buy them in stores like you could the NES and the Famicom controllers? Or is this their digital version of the, there you go, you got them,
Yeah.
of the NES Classic, right? Where they have a collection of games and it ships with this thing. I mean, that'd be freaking cool too.
So,
I don't know. We'll see.
okay, did you look at the picture? It's got like these three like little weird, almost like buttons on the top. Do you think those are the SR and SL buttons?
Yeah, let me take a closer look at that guy. No, I see the back of it. Hold on.
Yeah, and on the very top, if you're just looking at the back picture, there's like these
Yeah.
three bumps across the top, which, you know, I've looked at a Super Nintendo controller. I don't see anything like that on there, and I'm just curious, like, what would they put there? Because they had to put L and R buttons on the NES controllers because
Yeah.
they didn't have L and R buttons. But they have L and R buttons on Super Nintendo controllers. So what do you think
mean,
those are for?
Well, first of all, you're seeing the interface of connecting it to the Switch to charge it, right? So you've got that whole slider set up at the top, just like with the NES controllers. But I'm assuming they're the same tiny L and R buttons. Yeah, I think it's just a repeat. I think the middle bump is just the slider. Like
Oh,
look at
okay.
your NES controller when you look at it from the back. Do you see there's a little hump? See those humps?
Yeah.
Same thing, and the buttons are in between.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see that. Oh, okay. I was thinking I misunderstood. I thought that the bumps were buttons, but the buttons are depressed into those. That makes sense.
Which means they're not awesomely usable, obviously. But you know, obviously the system has shoulder buttons already, unlike the NES controllers, so it should be okay.
Do you think that I mean, we've got the anniversary of Nintendo Switch Online coming up relatively quickly. Do you think that that's the good place for them to maybe do a Nintendo Direct and at the end say, "Oh, by the way, here's Super Mario World running on your Switch"?
Yeah, I think now is the time to kind of give people confidence that their subscription, that they should renew their subscription, right? Anybody who bought it for a 12-month span, I bet you a lot of people who subscribe and played games like Splatoon and Mario Kart are at this point now where, you know, maybe they're not playing Switch Online that much anymore, or they're not that excited about some of the NES games that are being released because they may have already played them or they're not the top titles. And so I think that would be a perfect time to go, yes, we know you might not play some of the, you know, you're not going to play Luigi's Mansion Online this fall, but here's why you should keep this subscription, because look at all the cool games that are coming.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Listen, retro games, we're talking about retro games. One of my favorite retro games of all time, and I'm doing the show notes a little out of order here, so sorry about that. But one of my favorite retro games of all time that I grew up playing and I was always terrible at was Bubble Bobble.
Yeah.
Did you see this YouTube video this morning that I just added into the show notes at the last minute? Sorry.
Yeah, just hot off the press. Yeah, no, I saw it too, and I sent a message to Tom Marks. We're actually recording a Nintendo voice chat today. Casey's already traveling. A lot of people are on their way to Gamescom and are stopping in our London office first. But Tom and I are still here, and our returning member of NVC, Zach Ryan. And we saw this announcement. I sent him a note and said, I'm so excited. I really like the Bobble games. It's just these kind of simple, cute action puzzle games. It's a weird announcement. If you read it, first of all, it's being developed by Taito, right? The original
Yeah.
creators. Now, I don't know who's left at that studio from the original team, but it's cool that it hasn't kind of shifted to a completely new studio. But then the release, it comes out in Europe this year and not in the US until next year. And I'm like, what is that?
How much
Why?
localization could it possibly need?
Zero, right? Obviously not from the UK to the US. So it must be maybe a licensing issue, or maybe they're looking at the Switch lineup in the US and they feel like it's too crowded in the eShop. Who knows?
Yeah, that
But yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Especially, I mean, the later half of this year is bananas. There's way too many games. Like, there's going to be a lot of games that I probably would have otherwise bought that I'm going to take a pass on this year, just because there's so much other stuff to play that's coming out, especially with Link's Awakening coming, and I'm so excited for that game. It's actually, I told you right before we started recording, I'm a teacher, and I'm in the middle of summertime, but I'm still looking forward to September because of Link's Awakening, and I'll have to go back to work, but I'll still be playing Link's Awakening.
It's going into this year. I was asking, will they have enough to keep people busy? And then now we're sitting here and we've got Luigi's Mansion, Link's Awakening, Pokemon, and I think we're all still working on Fire Emblem, right? I mean, it's a huge game. My daughter is on playthrough 3 of that
Wow.
sucker. So I think it's a pretty cool quarter for Nintendo. They don't have a Mario or a Zelda, but Pokemon is their biggest handheld franchise. So I'm really curious to see what that does.
Okay, you brought up Fire Emblem, so now we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people are going to be angry with you if you give the wrong answer here. Which house did you go with?
Blue Lions.
Oh, there's going to be some people. There's going to be a lot of people in my chat who are very happy with what you just said.
Yeah.
I went Black Eagle, and they were all mad at me because I used a random number generator to pick, and it said Black Eagle, so that's what I went with. But a lot of people are repping Blue Lions. How are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it. I think it's just great, and I was very worried about this one. So full disclosure, I'm a Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, or even Famicom Wars alum. In that I think I've played every single game in the Fire Emblem series, including I used to live in Japan, so I first played the games on the Super Famicom there, went back to the the originals before that, played all the remakes. I love that series, and I'm really into that turn-based combat of both Advance Wars and Fire Emblem. I was worried about this one because it looked like just a lot of talk and a lot of doing everything but battling. I also like the Persona games though, and so this feels kind of like a melding of the two worlds. And I'm just amazed at the kind of relationship building and how well defined the characters are, that it becomes a really addictive loop to learn more about them. And Fire Emblem games always had this feature where you can recruit somebody to your army, right? In the old ones, it was much more simple. You had to have the right unit talk to the right unit on the battlefield. Now it's all done kind of in between. But yeah, I'm just smitten with this game. I just want to keep on playing it, and I'm kind of sad I don't have enough time to go back. Blue Lions, by the way, I love knights. I love kind of sword fighters, lance attacks and all that from the series. And so just the kind of the path of upgrading people to riding on horseback was enough for me. And I always like starting with units like that because they have a bit more, they're more generously endowed in the defense department versus your magicians who kind of, get killed by a single axe or sword or lance attack.
How far into the game are you so far?
I think I'm like 20, 25 hours in, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
My guess is that after your 20 or 25 hours, you are probably further than I am in my 30 hours because I go into the monastery and like I get quests and I'm trying to figure those out. And I feel like I feel like I get trapped in the monastery for too long. And
Yeah.
I need to find a way, I don't know, maybe I need to read some guides or something. But I need to find a way to speed up that part. But the battling, the moments when you are sitting there and you're playing through on the battlefield, and like one of your units is down to one hit point. That is
Yeah.
so terrifying and awesome at the
Uh,
same time. I adore Fire Emblem, and it's fantastic. So I
yeah, it's
completely
really good.
agree.
I'm playing it on hard with permadeath.
Oh, that's gutsy.
So it's, I mean, the game does get more difficult, but it has a pretty easy start compared to past Fire Emblems. Like the hard here is really more like the normal in previous games. But I think you need to have the confidence that you can go to you can go to the school and not do everything, right? Like you get your lost items and stuff, but it's cool, especially if you're playing on normal where you can actually grind battles. You don't have to do all that stuff, and you should feel the confidence to say, you know what, this weekend I'm just going to rest to build up, and get my sword power back or whatever, right?
Hmm.
It is. It can be very dangerous if you get trapped in the loop of saying, okay, I've got 5 lost items. I'm going to figure out each person. You like talk to each one of them. It can get a little bit fetch questy road.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Uh, Real quick, did you end up? I mean, I know that you have access to these in your offices, but did you end up upgrading to the new version of the Switch, or are you sticking with the old one?
So I did not. I mean, first of all, you should know I'm a dad of 3 kids, right? So there are 4 switches in my house.
Hmm.
Anytime you upgrade anything, the kids go, "What?" Like when you get an Xbox One X or you get a PS4 Pro or something. That is my lot in life. I don't think they're very aware of the upgrade, honestly. My boys are more into PC games right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to Japan in September, and I'm going to pick up one of the Disney Special Edition Switches.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm getting my beloved limited edition Joy-Con, as well as what I'm assuming will be the upgraded hardware because it hasn't been released yet. It's got to be the new chipset, because I feel like it kind of irks me to have to spend the full price for this battery upgrade, and I also pre-ordered the light.
Which
So
color? Hold on, which color?
yellow,
Okay.
which is the least popular one according to a poll we ran, and you people are all crazy. I love the kind of like crazy bold colors that you get with the Switch, and I just feel like gray is boring, so I wanted one of the colorful ones. If you're a collector, the Pokemon edition, of course, is a smarter choice because it'll be more limited in the end. But I don't know. I just really like the way yellow looks. It reminds me of my Game Boy Color
Oh yeah, of
Pokemon
course.
Pikachu edition.
Yeah. So I'm currently like thinking about it. I haven't made the decision yet. The thing is it seems like currently GameStop is offering $225 if you trade in a Nintendo Switch,
Yeah.
and that means you can get the new one, the I hate to say upgraded version. I like
Yeah.
to say revised version because it's
Yeah.
not really an upgrade. It plays the same games, but I currently am like maybe I should do this, even though I don't really play outside of the dock too much,
Yeah.
because I think that that's a good deal. But do you
That's a
think that
great deal.
it is a great deal? But do you think you're going to be able to get more later because this one has the chipset that is a little more hackable?
Well, I think they fixed that exploit in software, even though there was a lot of brouhaha over it not being fixable. So I don't think the difference is that big unless you kind of keep your original OS and never update the system. I wouldn't keep it for that. No, I think there'll be a revision to the Switch, next year again because ever since Apple arrived on the scene and proved that they could resell phones every year and get people to upgrade often, I think the console makers are also playing that game. Microsoft revised their console twice already this generation, and there'll be smaller upgrades coming, no doubt, to make the manufacturing cheap. You can I feel like think way, like if battery is super important to you, if you travel a lot and you don't want to log around some big battery charger, then I think it's worth it. But I wouldn't buy it just because of FOMO. You know, it's like you can wait a couple of months and there'll be some great special edition with super duper Joy-Con or something. You can hang on to the current one if you have a good charger already that you carry around.
You are really up on the terms. Yesterday, my daughter said
Yeah.
FOMO, and I said, "What the hell is FOMO?" And then she had to explain it to me, and I was like, "Okay." And then here, I'm glad that she explained it to me because now Per Schneider is using it, and I would have been like, "I don't know what he's talking about," and then I would have been confused.
Well, it's because I personally, you know, I kind of get caught up in that stuff. Like, I don't need a Switch Lite. I really don't.
Me either.
I just thought, like, I have every console exists 4 times in my house. Like, I don't need a smaller version that's less good with Joy-Con I can't remove. And yet, you know, here I am. I feel like I have to get it because it's a special edition. And I have a collection of Nintendo consoles too. So I have, you know, I have everything from the 6040D to 3 Game Boy Micros and all that. So there's this kind of FOMO factor of maybe thinking they'll be sold out and you will never get them again and all that.
I mean, look behind me. You can see all the crap on the shelves behind me. I can totally understand that. So let's take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to discuss some really, really old stuff that was unearthed and Nintendo putting the hammer down on some YouTubers. Be right back.
It's two-player fun on the split screen, only for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
All right, we're back with Per Schneider. And Per, did you see this story about the animation cells?
So I didn't see this yet.
Oh, man, this is cool.
Honestly, I've been heads down. We're planning for Gamescom next week, which is 5 days of live streaming, which is the most we've ever done. That's longer than E3. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I'm taking a look at it now.
Well, if did you watch the show ever? You might have been like, I was the perfect age to watch this, but I think you're a little older than I am.
Yeah, thanks. No,
sorry.
No, I did not.
A little wiser than I am, I think is the right term.
Okay, that's nice. That's no, I didn't watch the show. I obviously know of it, but that's really cool. That's a lot of cells out there. I have a couple of cells as well, but not of this show, unfortunately.
So what we're looking at is some cartoon cells, or what are they called? Something animation cells. There we go.
Yeah.
From the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which was this cartoon that ran in the 90s alongside Captain N, the Game Master, and they had like Captain Lou Albano like dress up as Mario in live action stuff, and then they ran this cartoon in between, and I love this old stuff like this. And somebody found over 200 Super Show and Super Mario Brothers 3 animation cells, and that's I just thought it was really cool. And if you want to check out the images from this, make sure that you go to runjumpstomp.com and follow the link in the show notes for episode 384, and then you can see these really cool animations. You said you have animation cells yourself. What are they from?
Yeah, so I have, what do I have? I have a couple. I have some of the original kind of like the pencil sketches, some cleanup, some pre-cleanup of some classic Disney stuff. Like I have the pterosaurs from Fantasia. I've got the dragon from Sleeping Beauty, which is freaking awesome. Maleficent. Mm-hmm. But not the cells. The cells are pretty pricey. I wish I had those. But then when I lived in Japan, I went to a store called Mandarake. They kind of specialize in collectibles, and I went through their boxes. And this is in the 90s when nobody cared, and I got all sorts of stuff like I have Dragon Ball Z, and now obviously a lot of animation has moved to digital, so this kind of stuff doesn't exist anymore. But I picked up a good 30 Japanese animation cells, and there are a couple of shows I've yet to be able to identify, honestly. Because they weren't marked very clearly, so I might have to post them someday, get people to look at them.
That's awesome. And for those of you who are wondering, he's at Pereign on Twitter, so you can follow him there. And
Yeah.
then if he posts those, then you can tell him what the heck it's from.
Yeah, they whole bunch. Like some look like was it Mukashi Banashi is like this Japanese kids animated series with kind of like spooky tales. So there definitely some like that in there too.
Real quick, before we get to the feedback section, we've got a quick story about Nintendo hitting at Gilva Sunner, who hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. They basically take Nintendo music and repost it, which is definitely against the rules. You're not supposed to do it, and Nintendo came down on them and hit them with many, many, many copyright strikes. And some people are upset about this because Nintendo doesn't give us any way to actually pay them to listen to the music. So basically, Nintendo says it's okay if you want to stream stuff. You just got to make sure that you're actually doing fair use and not just taking our work and uploading it, which I think is completely fair. But do you
Yeah.
think Nintendo is? I mean, recently we saw Square Enix say, "Here's all of our stuff on Spotify." Do you think Nintendo's going to do that anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised to see this happen now and so late. Nintendo's kind of infamously hasn't had the best policies when it comes to supporting streamers and YouTubers, and they're so protective of their IP that they wanted to control a lot of it. Unless you get white labeled or you're an ambassador for them.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is a sign of them cracking down a little bit more because they have something in the works, like maybe they've got some music collections that they want to do. They have talked about doing more cross-media stuff, more licensing stuff. Obviously, they're working with movie studios, so maybe they're just kind of clamping down because they want to own, the music distribution a little bit more. I think that's a good point. But I think more what it is, it's like they released Super Smash Brothers, and there's a lot of music in there, and one of the attractions is to be able to relive all the classic franchises. And maybe as part of that, they started to crack down, and maybe we just haven't heard of it that much.
That is something that is so Nintendo that they would say, sure, you can listen to a lot of our music if you listen to it on Smash. I mean, they even put in a mode where you can turn off the screen, but nobody wants to listen that way. Well, okay, I don't want to listen that way. Do you?
Yeah, no, I don't. But more importantly, I think what's important to note, like we tend our knee-jerk reaction is of course to side with a YouTuber, right? This is not somebody who's doing this as a business. He's maybe doing this for the love of the music. From a rights holder perspective, if you don't enforce your rights, you can lose them, right? It's as simple as that. And we have to deal with this too. We can't just take a trailer a publisher puts out and put it on IGN. We sometimes have to hold them, not publish, get permission. Much to the ire of our fans who are saying, "When are you going to post this?" But every company has different policies, and that's certainly the case with music as well. Where sometimes you'll notice our review of games don't have the music from the game in it. They actually have different music, like licensed music that we pay for, that we put in the reviews and the features, simply because of the complicated licensing issues with sound.
Yeah, I will say this. I got a review copy of Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, and I really like what they did. They included a little checkbox so that when you stream it or when you make a YouTube video about it, it says, "Hey, no stream safe music," so that it takes out anything that's going to get you copyright banned. And I think that or copyright checked. I think that that's a really good solution, and I wish more developers would do that. Although that means that they got to have like 2 sets of music, which is an added cost.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool for sure. I mean, the only other thing is, I'm trying to find a pattern, but it looks like they're just going after all music. I was just wondering if they're including some soundtrack with one of their special editions, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Before we get to the feedback, if you want to give feedback to the show, at RunJumpStomp on Twitter, runjumpstomp@gmail.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment in the section down below. We've got 3 pieces of feedback from people today. Jay writes, so recently I was talking about how somebody was complaining that a lot of the games that are in or some of the games that are in the bestseller list on the eShop are games that are on sale for like less than $1, things like that. And they were like, I don't know if that's really the best way. Maybe they should stop them from doing that. And so I was talking about that on the show, and I got this message from Jay. They said, with regards to games on sale ending up on bestsellers, there's an easy fix. If the game is sold at 50% off, then it only counts as half a copy sold. How do you feel about that, Per?
I think that's silly.
Yeah.
Look, this is the kind of the strategy where a publisher or developer cuts cost of a game in order to rise up in automated rankings is age old, right? It's something that a lot of mobile developers have done in the App Store. They even made their games for free. We used to have a program where we gave away free iOS games in partnership with a developer every month, and they didn't do that because they love the world or they love us. It's because it gets people to download the game, which then spikes them up in the rankings. And when you're in the rankings, there's this halo effect of people purchasing the title because they see it as a recommendation. Look, I think like if a developer is willing to take the hit to go from like $10 to $1 or something, and they rise up in the ranks and they pick up some additional sales, that's fine, right? Like it's a strategy. If that works, they took a hit on the actual they took a hit on the actual cost of the game. They're making less money getting it higher in the rankings, and then they make a little bit more money afterwards. I think it's fair game. I think consumers need to like just look at all the different factors that drive sales, and I think it's pretty clear to a lot of people that some of the what was the game where you like cut the logs?
Timberman Versus. That game's a dope.
Timberman Versus, right? Like I would have never known about that game unless it had popped up in the top 10 there in the store, and like I was immediately able to see, okay, it's because it's $1 right now. It's super cheap. Yeah, I think that's fair game. It's like it's a strategy.
I agree. I think that's fine. What about this? Eric Smith writes in, wouldn't it help if you were given an option to rate the game after purchase? That way people could see if the game was good, even if it was inexpensive. I'd be okay with a thumbs up, thumbs down option. Thoughts? And I will say this, Nintendo kind of gave us the option for a very short time, and then they kind of took it away. Do you think that's coming back anytime soon, Per?
I feel like, as they develop the eShop more, I feel like a user feedback mechanism is a given. It's not just helpful for consumers, but it can obviously also deter purchases. But it's also because they gather data, right? Like if the company knows what you like, they'll be more effective at showing you affinity data choices, like games that are. If you like a game and I like a game, we have a connection now, and they might recommend the game that I like that you don't know about yet, right? Like they're able to data mine us like that. So I think, yeah, of course it's going to come back in some fashion. The thumbs up, thumbs down thing, I don't know. Maybe I think sometimes companies struggle with a value rating that is a deterrent to purchasing. You saw Netflix completely upending their rating system and giving us something that I feel like is not helpful at all, because I like the transparency of seeing nuance. Like, did people love this, or did they like this, or did they think it was okay? And this is completely removed in Netflix. And so I would love 5-star ratings or 10-point ratings or something like that. It's more useful for me, but also I realize Nintendo doesn't like that, because suddenly you have a game that has 3 out of 10 and people are not going to purchase it.
I totally understand what you're saying there. We got one more piece of feedback. This one comes from Leonard Strauss. They said, is there an ETA on Mario Maker 2 Friends patch? My brothers and I have made levels for each other to play, but sending a code and asking what they thought would not be nearly as fun as playing along with them, hanging back and laughing maniacally. And I totally agree. I almost didn't get Super Mario Maker 2 when it first came out, because I was like, I'm going to wait for that patch. But man, it seems like I'd be waiting a long time. You think this is going to happen anytime soon, or is this something that I almost forgot about it because the game was so damn good?
I think so. I think we'll get this. If you look at how Mario Kart 8 developed and Splatoon developed, right, there were some real limitations at launch. I mean, with Mario Kart, a mode that many of us considered to be our favorite, right? Battle mode wasn't even part of the the original release, and like this feature seems very core to what makes Mario Maker fun. It's to kind of get it, not just get your work not just to people, but people you care about and you care to hear their opinions of. I feel like this feature fell victim to what they call minimum viable product, or MVP, in the development space, where you look at all of the things that are necessary to make something a success or make something positively received, and then there are a couple of features you want to get in that you just can't if you want to develop it, release it on a certain deadline. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this one is a feature that it didn't catch them by surprise that people said they wanted it. They just couldn't get it in. So I bet they started working on it the moment they finished testing the original release.
That's fair. So what's Pear up to these days? What do you tell me what's going on?
Well, I as you said, I've been with IGN for a long time, over 20 years. I oversee the content department, so video, editorial, social. Right now, what I'm working on is figuring out how we cope with all these different platforms that we put our content on. We used to be a website, and it was very easy to upload content to your website and run it. And then we added audio podcasts. We added a Snapchat daily edition that's custom and completely different from our website. We started a YouTube channel. We're on TikTok now. So I'm trying to figure out how do we support all these different platforms, all these different audiences, because if we screw up, like, on Snapchat, if we don't publish a day, that's 2 million people we don't reach. And so it's kind of like, how do we do that without working ourselves to death and not being able to sleep at night? And then I just took on oversight over our product department at IGN. And one thing I'm going to work on is how to give people a reason to go to the IGN website, right? Like if you're into video, you can just go to our YouTube channel and just watch content there, never to go to the website. And so I'm working on some really cool features. Hopefully the first set will be done before the end of the year, that kind of that let people do different things on the website they can't do on our YouTube channel, on Facebook or Twitter.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And then you said you're recording Nintendo Voice Chat later on today?
We're recording NVC today. Casey usually hosts the show. Tom Marks is jumping in for today because Casey's on her way to Gamescom, and then I'm not leaving until Gamescom until Friday. So Tom Marks is hosting, and I think Zachary Ryan, who used to be on the show, is joining us again. He left us for a couple of months to work at Ubisoft, and I'm happy to announce that he's back here, and he will drive you nuts on NVC like he used to.
That's awesome.
And then it's Gamescom time, right? We're the official studio partner of Gamescom. That means we'll have a presence on the show floor. So if any of your listeners are going to Gamescom, definitely swing by. There'll be a glass box with us in it. Please say hi. Don't be shy. I'm rhyming today. And if you can make it to Gamescom, which is sad because it's freaking awesome. It's a great show in Cologne, Germany. 400,000 people. This is really scary. Wow. But we will be broadcasting content live from the show floor, so you'll get to see game demos of new games. We'll see what Nintendo brings. We definitely will have them on as well, and maybe see some new footage of some of the upcoming games.
And where can people find all things Pear Schneider?
Easiest way to find me and to reach me is on Twitter. It's just Pear IGN. Pear is P-E-E-R, capital letters IGN. You can message me there. I look at my DMs as well. I've got open DMs. Twitter does the crazy filtering thing, so sometimes it takes me a week or two to get back to you. But if you've got any questions, I'm always open to hearing feedback there as well. That's the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it, man.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a good one.